Hi, watch this. Wait for it, just wait. Right there, him. This man right here with glasses, you see the tie, all that? Yeah, that's him. He doesn't show up again for the rest of the speech until the very end, after Dr. King is done, and he's one of the first people that goes up to congratulate him. And he is who today's video is about. I remember watching this speech in school like we did every year. One year in high school, I could have sworn that I saw a little person in the crowd, just for a split second, because then it cut away to that different shot. It wasn't until very recently that I looked into it and I discovered I was right. His name was Kenneth Brown, and he was born on July 22nd, 1940, in Charleston, South Carolina. He was the 8th child of 10 to Reverend Willis Brown and Mrs. Evelyn Brown. For the first 4 months, he was just like any other baby. Then, his mother noticed that although his head and his body continued to grow, his arms and his legs did not. When Mrs. Brown first learned that her son was a dwarf, her first reaction was, quote, "just to take care of him, because he's my child. We loved him just as much as we loved the other children, maybe more." According to family members, Kenneth had been raised to believe that he was just like any other person, just not as tall as most. As you can see, Brown had the most common type of dwarfism known as achondroplasia. In the early stages of human development, much of the fetal skeleton is made out of cartilage, which later hardens into bone. Achondroplasia occurs when the cartilage tissue does not develop in your arms and your legs. This genetic disorder leads to short limb dwarfism, with the upper parts of the arms and legs shorter than the lower portions of those limbs. Symptoms or features of achondroplasia include shortened bone in the thigh or the upper arm, short hands and feet, a large separation between the third and the fourth finger, a head that is larger than normal, prominent forehead, flat nose, and delayed development in infants with sitting and walking and crawling. And long-term effects of achondroplasia include back and leg pain / arthritis, breathing problems, apnea, obesity, recurring ear infections, curved spine, bowed legs, excess fluid to the brain, also known as
hydrocephalus,
that, as well as obstructive sleep apnea. Quote, "Our father was a Baptist minister, and Ken grew up in the church," recalled Evelyn Brown, one of his sisters. "He was always made to feel like one of God's children, and that he was very important. In fact, I think our parents may have spoiled him, since he never got punished the way the rest of us did." The sister recalled how her mother had been upset one afternoon after not being able to find Ken. A circus was in town, she said, and there was concern that Ken would be kidnapped and put on display as a freak. Quote, "Just the idea of Ken being viewed as a clown or something horrified my mother, so she made sure that Ken never saw himself as anything but decent and deserving." It turned out their mother had nothing to worry about. Quote, "Ken had just been playing outside with friends, roaming around like he did in Washington." When Kenny was 7 years old, a private teacher actually came into the Brown home. 2 years later, Kenny enrolled in public school. He went all the way through high school and graduated at the age of 21. And that same year, in 1961, Kenny told the family he wanted to be on his own to look for work. With some show business dancing and master of ceremony experience under his belt, Kenny set off for Camden, New Jersey to make his way in the big wide world, or, if possible, the show business world, traditionally open to dwarves. He toured the East Coast with Jackie Wilson for 2 years, but show business is hard enough on its own, even if you're not a little person. Later, Kenny accepted a job as a copy boy for the Philadelphia Inquirer. After a year and a half, a doctor told him that there was too much walking for the arthritis in his legs, so he eventually had to stop that work. Kenny tried for other jobs thereafter, and in 1965, he had hopes of becoming a radio DJ. Though, at the time of his interview in Avid magazine's October issue of 1965, it is said, quote, "He was living in a dark rooming house at the top of a long flight of stairs and drew a welfare check." He said about tackling the obstacles of racial discrimination in Camden and neighboring Philadelphia, where he was a devotee of NAACP Cecil Moore. Brown worked as a photographer. He held several positions in the DC government before eventually retiring, and he followed in the footsteps of his father by becoming an ordained minister. Kenny was able to attend the 1965 Little People of America conference as the first black man to ever attend the event. In the same Ebony article from October 1965, Kenny can be seen in many photos attending the conference and conducting normal activities as a little person. Like, I mean, this picture, for example, that's from that same article itself. And if we go on to this next one, You can see him here talking to some lady with dwarfism. Whole bunch of little people in the back. Yeah, and then you even got him right here sitting with the freaking president. Little People of America, President Lee Kitchens, a Texas engineer, tells Kenny how the organization seeks answers to the physical problems of dwarfs. With slight adjustments, little people match many accomplishments of those of regular size. Facts. This is true. Also, look at him. That's the man. And that's him right there. Look at him in his suit. And then, see, look at him boogieing. He's breaking it down, cutting a rug. He's cutting a rug, so to speak. Look at him go. Wow. Oh, wait, and then there's this one. Because at LPA, which I've only been once, there's like a dance. And of course they crown like the king and the queen or whatever. I don't remember exactly. But there's a dance. It's a whole, like every night there's a dance or some shit. And look at him. Look at how happy he is. Look at his face. He's like, yeah. That's so fun. What else is going on here? Oh, they're playing baseball. See, look at these little people playing baseball. Agile Kenny Brown scores one of East 24's to 3 winning run. Damn. 24-3. Hell yeah. Look at him go playing baseball. What's next? Oh yeah, so look at this. That's him dining out. A ladies' man. Kenny proposes a toast with 3 dinner companions. Wow. See? It says so right there. He was the first black person to ever attend a Little People of America meeting. And look at the way he's standing. You see how he's standing? As a little person. Okay. If you didn't know this, I didn't mention this at all. I'm a little person. So, the way that he's standing right now, that means there's back pain in like his back right here. Because when you stand, like I have stood like this so many times. And the only reason I'm standing on the back of a chair like this is to take away pressure from right there. My lower back right above my booty. That's where it hurts. This picture's from 1965 and our bodies still gotta cope with ourselves in the same way. It's just cool to see. And you got them loading shit in a truck. That's for real what I look like when I move. Look at this. Yep, sitting in trunk of car makes packing easier for one little man who gets an assist from Kenny. Carrying a box nearly as big as his own size posed no problem of strength for the traveler, but reaching into the back of a trunk from ground did. Yeah, that's true, it do. I'll link this Ebony article below if y'all want to go check it out and read it for yourself. There's very interesting points of the lives of little people during the 1960s, which, honestly, it's very similar to what it is today still. I'm not gonna lie. Elmer Gorn, a member of Springfield Baptist Church, remembered Brown as a fair and generous man. Quote, when we were trying to raise money to renovate our church kitchen, he donated $100 out of the kindness of his heart. He was always impeccably dressed, usually in a suit and tie. Exhibit A. He also wore a hat and frequently carried a Bible. 3-foot-tall Reverend Kenneth Brown epitomized dignity and commanded respect. Come 1999, 58-year-old Kenneth would spend hours each day walking from church to church, having breakfast at the United House of Prayer, attending a ministerial conference at Trinidad Baptist, and then heading back across town for Bible Way Temple on New Jersey Avenue Northwest. This is all in Washington, D.C., by the way. Quote, you'd see him in Northwest one moment, and the next thing you know, he'd be over in Southeast. He was an avid walker and enjoyed the exercise, said it was good for his arthritis. The last time I saw him, I just stood there and watched how he had to struggle to cross the street, recalled Theodore Nelson, an acquaintance of Brown's. Quote, he didn't know how to duck cars like the rest of us. Even during Washington, D.C.'s most crime-ridden years, he was able to walk through the streets without being robbed or hassled. Motorists, not muggers, were his nemesis. It was difficult for him to get out of the way of an oncoming car, Nelson recalled. People can be so aggressive, the way they aim their cars at you and try to make you run. On February 27th, 1999, Brown left his home in the unit block of South Street Northeast and was heading for breakfast at United House of Prayer. According to DC police, he was moving through a crosswalk when he was struck by a security guard heading home after their night shift. A few days later, Reverend Kenneth L. Brown died from the resulting head injuries. On Brown's homecoming services program were the words, free at last, Free at last. Thank God Almighty, I am free at last. Unfortunately, the sources on Kenneth Brown are extremely limited, so there's a great many details that we'll never know about this unique little person. But I hope this video managed to do some justice in telling his story. Given that there's only one of us for every 10,000 non-little people, not many folks with dwarfism have documented histories or accounts of their lives. Some little people only exist in legend, others in art, and a great many on film. But little people were never referenced in any of the history books I read growing up. So while Reverend Kenneth Brown was by no means a trailblazing revolutionary, he was a meaningful part of his family, his community, and occupies his own little corner of the history of little people. May he rest in peace. Alright, thank you for watching if you made it this far. I hope you enjoyed the video. Leave a like, leave a comment. If y'all like this kind of stuff, I'll probably do more in the future. I don't know. Yeah, consider subscribing. Join the yoRt. I'd like to get to 1,000 subscribers by summertime if that's possible. But anyway, I'll see you all in the next one. Bye.
It came as a joyous daybreak to end the long night of their captivity. But 100 years later, the Negro still is not free. I have a dream that one day this nation will rise up and live out the true meaning of its creed. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal.